The stages of listening to Boise State Public Radio podcasts. Step 1, testing the waters. You tune into an episode or two. Nothing too serious. Step 2, you got a little hooked on one of those series like Extremely American or Scandalized, and now you're binging. No judgment, but you did listen to it in one day. Step 3, now you're subscribed to a feed. You get notifications to your phone every time there's a new daily episode of The Connector or Idaho Matters. I see where this is going. Step 4, you realize how much time you're spending with Boise State Public Radio podcasts and the fact that it doesn't cost you a dime. Step 5, you decide to step up and support your podcast listening because you can, because you want to, not because you have to. All right, now's the time, you podcast fan you. Go to boisestatepublicradio.org and click donate to support your love of Boise State Public Radio podcast listening today.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. It's Idaho's daily news. Good morning. I'm George Prentice. This morning, we check in with a local rabbi about the start of Hanukkah and Idaho's special connection to the holiday. Spoiler alert, it has to do with potatoes. And staying on the topic of produce, we learn about the discovery of an apple variety that has pioneer roots here in the Gem State. The first day of Hanukkah began at nightfall yesterday, December 25th. Our Julie Lukata spoke with Rabbi Dan Fink of the Ahavath Beth Israel congregation in Boise about what the festivities mean to the Jewish community around the world and right here in Idaho.
Celebrated over the course of 8 days, Hanukkah is one of the most popular Jewish religious observances. Also known as the Festival of Light, the custom is to light a candle each night, progressively lighting up the home with each new flame added to the menorah.
It's a time of kindling light when the world is very, very dark outside.
In moments of darkness, Rabbi Dan Fink says celebrating is particularly important.
We're also reminded that it's a fragile blessing and we have to work hard to keep it. And in a time of conflict in Israel and Gaza, it's a time when we pray for light and for peace.
Fink says Hanukkah is an opportunity to come together in community and be a source of strength and comfort to one another.
It's a time of sweetness and of celebration, and we need times of sweetness and celebration.
And of course, food plays an important role in the festivities.
Hanukkah and Idaho are made for one another.
Latkes, or fried potato pancakes, are traditionally eaten during the celebration.
So where better than in, the state of potatoes to celebrate Hanukkah? We are the epicenter of Hanukkah food. Everywhere around the United States, they're using Idaho potatoes to make latkes for Hanukkah. So a little bit of Idaho goes everywhere during Hanukkah.
Julie Luketa, Boise State Public Radio News.
This year, Hanukkah celebrations run through the evening of January 2nd. The legacy of Polybemus, one of Idaho's most famous pioneers, is expanding. As James Dawson reports, researchers confirmed the discovery of an apple on her Salmon River ranch thought to be lost to history.
It was 2018, and E.J. Brandt had recently retired from his job as an electrical technician. He wanted to find a way to give something back to society. One day he got a tip there were some strange apples on an old farm near his home in Troy, Idaho, so he went to check it out.
I took a bite of the apple, and it was just delicious. And I did not know what it was.
Brandt sent in a sample to apple experts in Oregon. They told him he had just found a variety thought to be extinct, and he was hooked. In 2019, he got an invitation to visit the remote Polybemus Ranch east of Riggins, which is only accessible by boat or plane. Brandt found 2 trees near a creek with a unique-looking apple.
They had splotches of red, green, some rustic stripes onto it.
Turns out it was sweet and a favorite of the local bears in the fall. Researchers couldn't find any genetic matches. Brandt chose to name the apple after Bemis. He sent grafts from the trees to heritage orchards to preserve their legacy and plans to eventually sell them to the public as part of his Lost Apple project. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
That will do it for today's episode of The Connector. I'm George Prentice. I'll see you back here tomorrow. To stay in touch with the news between now and then, check out boisestatepublicradio.org or download the free Boise State Public Radio app. Enjoying this podcast? Tell your friends. And thanks for listening.
We could all use a little help navigating the news these days. The Consider This podcast wants to give you a hand. 6 days a week, we'll help you make sense of the day's biggest news story and what it means for you in less than 15 minutes. Listen now to the Consider This podcast from NPR.